Imagine this. You're standing in a dimly lit bar, the kind where the air hums with quiet conversations and the clink of glasses, and you catch her eye across the room. A woman whose presence cuts through the noise, her gaze sharp, her smile a riddle you can't quite solve. You feel the pull, the instinct to approach, to prove your worth with your words, your charm, your carefully crafted persona, hoping she'll see you as the man she's been waiting to fall for. You've done everything you thought you should, texted her back instantly, planned the perfect dates, bent over backward to show her you care. But as you take a step toward her, you notice an older man at the bar, weathered and calm, his eyes distant, his posture unshaken. He hasn't said a word, hasn't tried to impress her, yet her gaze shifts to him, lingering with a quiet intensity you can't explain. You freeze, a knot tightening in your chest, a question burning in your mind. Why him? What does he have that I don't? Why does it feel like no matter how hard you try, you're always the one left needing her, while the man who seems to need nothing at all becomes the one she can't forget? This is the paradox that haunts you. You've been taught that women fall for the man who gives the most, who chases the hardest, who proves his love through endless effort and validation. Society tells you to be the provider, the pleaser, the one who bends to her every need, all to win her heart. But what if that's the very thing that makes you forgettable? What if the rare man she falls for isn't the one who needs her to feel whole, but the one who doesn't? The man who's so complete in himself, so unshakably free, that his very existence becomes a gravitational pull she can't resist. What if true attraction isn't about how much you give, but how little you need? You felt it, haven't you? The exhaustion of chasing her love, of sending that extra text, of softening your truth to keep her close, only to watch her pull away. Her interest fading with every move you make to prove yourself. The way you've lost pieces of yourself, your edges, your fire, your untamed core, trying to fit into the version of you she might want, only to feel more invisible with every compromise. The way you've lived for her gaze, her approval, her love, only to find yourself hollow, defined by her indifference rather than your own truth. Why does this keep happening? Why does needing her so badly make you the man she can't truly see? Why does it feel like the harder you try to be everything, the more you become nothing in her eyes? Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist philosopher who saw through the illusions of human existence, understood this struggle centuries ago. He knew that man is nothing else but what he makes of himself, and that the deepest betrayal is to abandon your authentic self for someone else's gaze, to live in bad faith, becoming a character in her story instead of the author of your own. In a world where men lose themselves chasing love, Sartre's shocking truth offers a different path, a way to become the rare man women fall for, not by needing them, but by reclaiming your existential integrity, your freedom, your untamed core. But why are we so drawn to this trap of neediness, of losing ourselves in her gaze at the cost of our own truth? What drives us to surrender our authenticity for love? And what does it cost us in the end? Let's dive deeper into the hidden forces at play and uncover the truth behind why you've been fading in her eyes and how to become the man she can't forget. You felt the sting of fading in her eyes at that bar, the sinking realization that your neediness, your endless texts, your softened truths, your desperate chase for her love left you invisible, while the man who needed nothing drew her gaze effortlessly. You've been conditioned to believe that love is won by giving everything, by becoming the man you think she wants, by molding yourself to fit her desires. But the hidden problem isn't your effort. It's the belief that your worth, your identity, your very existence depends on her validation, on her love to make you whole. Let's uncover why you've been trapped in this cycle of self-abandonment and what Sartre understood about the forces that keep you from becoming the rare man she can't forget. Your psychology is wired for connection, but it's also your greatest vulnerability. Your brain craves belonging. It's a survival instinct. When you chase her love, when you bend to her gaze, your reward system lights up with dopamine, urging you to seek that fleeting high of being chosen, of being seen as enough. But this wiring sets a trap. The fear of rejection activates your amygdala, driving you to overcompensate, to prove your worth by abandoning your truth, by becoming what you think she wants. Cognitive biases amplify this. The confirmation bias makes you believe that if you give more, if you need her more, she'll love you back. But this blinds you to her deeper instincts. Neuroscience shows that this neediness, those begging texts, those moments of self-betrayal, spikes cortisol, keeping you in a state of stress, eroding your confidence, and making you less desirable. Why does needing her so badly make you feel so small? Because your brain is handing her the power to define you, leaving you hollow when she pulls away. Philosophically, this trap is what Sartre called bad faith. He argued that man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. Yet you've been living as if your essence comes from her gaze, becoming a character in her story instead of the author of your own. Sartre's concept of bad faith is the great enemy, ceasing to be the creator of your existence, surrendering your freedom to her approval, saying yes when your soul says no, softening your truth to keep her close. In No Exit, he wrote, "Hell is other people, not because they harm you, but because their gaze can lead you to abandon yourself, to live for their eyes instead of your own." When you chase her love at the cost of your authenticity, you're in bad faith, trading your untamed core for a domesticated version that fits her comfort. A quiet extinction, a soft suicide of the man you could be. Society doubles down on this conditioning. In a world obsessed with external validation, think of the endless dating apps, the cultural praise for the nice guy, the pressure to be her everything. You're taught that love is a transaction, that you must perform, please, and prove to be chosen. Aldous Huxley warned in Brave New World of a society that keeps you chasing external approval to avoid facing your own truth. You see it in relationships. The man who sends that begging text, who stays silent when he's disrespected, who trades his boundaries for her presence, thinking it'll make her love him. But this isn't love. It's captivity, a dynamic where you trade your freedom for her fleeting affection, leaving you open to her indifference, her withdrawal, her choice to walk away. Carl Jung would add a deeper layer. Your neediness stems from a disconnection from your shadow. The part of you that knows your worth isn't tied to her love. The part that craves freedom over captivity. When you ignore this shadow, you let her gaze define you, and her instincts sense it. She pulls away, not because you're not enough, but because you've given up the very thing that makes you rare, your authentic self. But what happens when you keep chasing, keep abandoning yourself, keep living in her gaze? What happens when you ignore the existential integrity Sartre knew could make you unforgettable? The consequences are more devastating than you might think, and they're already shaping your life in ways you can't ignore. Let's uncover those costs and see why you can't afford to stay in this trap any longer. You've been trapped in the cycle of bad faith. abandoning your authentic self to chase her love, molding yourself into the man you think she wants, believing that needing her, her gaze, her approval, her affection will make you whole, will make her fall for you. You've seen how your psychology, societal conditioning, and philosophical illusions have driven you to surrender your freedom, to live for her eyes instead of your own truth. But the unseen consequences of this self-abandonment are silently unraveling your life, your relationships, and your very sense of self, leaving you further from the rare man she can't forget than you realize. Let's uncover the hidden costs of this mistake, the toll it's taking on your reality, and why you can't afford to keep living in her gaze. First, consider your relationships. When you live in bad faith, sending that begging text, softening your truth, ending your boundaries to keep her close, you think you're showing love, proving your worth, making yourself the obvious choice, but you're not. You're signaling neediness, a lack of self-possession, and in doing so, you push her away. She might stay for a while, drawn by your effort, but over time, your constant need for her validation kills her desire. You felt it, haven't you? The way she pulls back the more you chase, the way her interest fades when you over-explain, the way you're left clinging to a connection that slips away with every move you make to hold it. Social psychology calls this the reactance effect. When you need her too much, you lose your freedom, and she loses her attraction. Over time, this erodes your ability to form meaningful relationships, leaving you trapped in a cycle of unreciprocated need. Feeling more invisible with every attempt to be seen, the damage strikes deeper. It hits your core identity. Every time you abandon yourself, every time you trade your truth for her approval, you chip away at your self-respect. You start to doubt your worth, your authenticity, your ability to exist without her gaze to define you. Cognitive biases like the self-blame bias make you internalize her withdrawal. You think you're not enough, that you need to need her more, be more, give more. But this only deepens the wound. Neurologically, this constant neediness keeps your brain in a state of stress, flooding your system with cortisol, impairing your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for clarity and self-control. You become anxious, hollow, unable to stand firm in your own truth. Why does her indifference hurt so much after you've given everything? Because it's not just her rejection. It's the death of the self you've sacrificed, a self you've buried to be loved, leaving you nothing but her fading gaze. On a broader scale, this pattern shapes the world around you. When you live for her validation, always chasing, always bending, you become a shadow in a society where women are drawn to the rare, the unshakable, the free. You're playing into a game where desire thrives on freedom, not captivity, and your neediness makes you forgettable. The man who fades into the background, while the one who needs nothing stands out. In modern relationships, this perpetuates a cycle of disposability. Men who need too much are taken for granted, while those who embody their own truth, who live in radical freedom, become unforgettable. The bystander effect in attraction dynamics plays a role here. When everyone chases, no one stands out, allowing women to be drawn to the man who seems untouchable. Your neediness doesn't just hurt you. It fuels a world where true attraction is reserved for those who know the power of not needing. The stakes are higher than you think. Every moment you spend living for her gaze, abandoning your truth, letting your need for her define you, is a moment you're not becoming the rare man she can't forget. You feel it, don't you? The quiet ache of being unchosen, the fear that you're meant to be more, but can't break free from this cycle of need and rejection. If you keep going like this, what will you lose next? Your authenticity, your relationships, your very sense of self? There's a way out, a rebellion against this trap, a path to embody the freedom Sartre knew could make you unforgettable. Let's take that step and discover how to become the man who doesn't need her to be whole, the man she can't help but fall for. You've seen the devastating toll of living in bad faith, how it's left you invisible, eroded your self-respect, and trapped you in a cycle of neediness, all while pushing her further away instead of sparking the deep attraction you crave. You've been conditioned to believe that needing her, her love, her gaze, her validation, will make you the man she falls for. But in doing so, you've lost the very thing that makes you rare, your authentic self. But here's the rebellion Sartre's wisdom urges you to embrace. Stop needing her to be someone and start being someone for yourself. The rare man women fall for isn't the one who chases their love. He's the one who embodies radical freedom, who lives in existential integrity, who becomes so whole that his very presence becomes a force she can't resist. This radical shift will empower you to break free from the trap of bad faith, to become the man she can't forget, not by needing her, but by reclaiming your untamed core. First, reclaim your freedom by choosing yourself. You've been living for her gaze, abandoning your truth to fit her desires, but Sartre's core truth rings clear. Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. Stop being a character in her story. Become the author of your own. Say no when your soul says no, even if it risks her leaving. In a relationship, if she disrespects your boundaries, don't bend to keep her close. Stand firm. Let her feel the weight of your absence if she can't meet you in your truth. In life, don't chase her validation through endless texts or softened truths. Focus on your own purpose, your own values, your own becoming. Psychologically, this taps into the scarcity principle. When you stop needing her to define you, she senses your freedom, and that freedom awakens her desire. Practice this today. Identify one way you've compromised your truth for her approval, and consciously choose to honor yourself instead, feeling the power of your own authorship. Next, cultivate an unmoved presence. You've been reacting to her tests, chasing when she withdraws, over-explaining when she provokes, performing to win her love. But Sartre knew that the price of freedom is solitude, and true attraction comes from standing unshaken in your own being. When she tests you, when she offers chaos or pulls away, don't collapse into her gaze. Remain still, rooted, unmoved. In a social setting, if she withdraws her attention, don't rush to fill the void. Let her feel the silence, the weight of your calm. In a relationship, if she provokes you with a jab or a storm, breathe deeply, hold your center, and let your presence speak. Neurologically, this lowers your cortisol levels, keeping your prefrontal cortex engaged, allowing you to act from clarity, not need. You become the mountain she returns to, the man who breathes deeply in her absence, a force she can't shake. Try this now. The next time she tests you, pause for 10 seconds, feel your own stillness, and watch how her energy shifts toward you. Finally, embrace the solitude of authenticity. You've been fleeing solitude, fearing the emptiness of not being loved. But Sartre taught that you are condemned to be free, required to choose yourself daily, even if it means standing alone. Stop oversharing. Stop confessing your depths to win her over. Let your mystery speak. In a relationship, don't offer everything prematurely. Let her feel the risk of not fully knowing you, the unfolding project of your existence. In life, choose solitude over a love that demands your self-betrayal. Be the man who pays the price of freedom gladly. Historically, men like Albert Camus, a contemporary of Sartre, embodied this. His quiet authenticity made him magnetic, a man women couldn't forget because he lived for his own truth, not theirs. You can do the same, turning every interaction into a testament to your freedom, every silence into a moment of your power. This rebellion defies everything you've been taught. Society will push you to need, to chase, to bend. But every time you choose freedom over validation, stillness over reaction, solitude over captivity, you grow stronger. You start to feel it. Her gaze lingers, her desire deepens, and your presence becomes magnetic. Sartre's truth isn't about games. It's about becoming the man who exists so fully in his own truth that she can't help but fall for him. As we move to the final realization, you'll see how this rebellion isn't just a way to break free. It's a way to redefine attraction, to become the rare man she dreams of when her spirit is cold. Are you ready to step fully into that freedom? You've rebelled against the trap of bad faith, embracing radical freedom, unmoved presence, and the solitude of authenticity to reclaim your untamed core. Shifting the dynamic so her gaze lingers, her desire deepens, and your very existence becomes a force she can't ignore. You've stopped needing her to define you, choosing instead to live in existential integrity, becoming a man who doesn't chase love but lets it orbit him, if it dares. But here's the ultimate truth Sartre's philosophy reveals. You were never meant to be completed by her. You were meant to complete yourself. The rare man women fall for isn't the one who wins her love, but the one who wins his own, becoming so whole, so unshakably free that his presence alone awakens her deepest longing, not because he needed her, but because he didn't. This revelation redefines everything, turning your need into power, your solitude into magnetism, and your life into a testament to the man you were always meant to be. Sartre understood that man is nothing else but what he makes of himself, and that true freedom comes from embracing the nothingness of your consciousness, the void that has no essence until you choose it. You've been chasing her love to fill that void, to give you meaning, to make you someone. But the ultimate truth flips this on its head. The rare man women fall for is the one who fills his own void, who chooses himself daily, who lives in radical freedom, even if it means standing alone. Freedom, presence, authenticity, these aren't just tools to attract her. They're the essence of a man who's already whole, who doesn't need her to breathe, because he breathes deeply in her absence. When you become the source of your own meaning, when you stand unaltered in your own truth, you become the man she can't forget, not because you chased her, but because you didn't have to. Philosophically, this truth aligns with Sartre's concept of being for itself. The man who exists as a project, unfolding, choosing, defining himself with or without a witness. The pain of her indifference, the exhaustion of chasing her love, the anxiety of not being enough, it all stems from tying your essence to her gaze, from living in bad faith to avoid the anguish of freedom. But when you embrace that anguish, when you choose solitude over self-betrayal, you become unshakable. Carl Jung would add that this wholeness comes from integrating your shadow, the part of you that fears solitude, that craves validation, that hides your untamed core. By facing that shadow, by becoming whole, you radiate a presence that's magnetic, a depth that awakens her longing without you needing to try. You don't need her to love you. You are enough in your own eyes, And that sufficiency changes everything. Psychologically, this revelation is transformative. Needing her love keeps you in a cycle of stress, flooding your brain with cortisol, eroding your self-esteem with every withdrawal. But when you choose yourself, you break that cycle. You lower stress, allowing your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for clarity and confidence, to take over. You feel calmer, more grounded, more alive. Studies show that men who cultivate self-authenticity report higher emotional resilience and deeper connections because they're no longer at the mercy of her gaze. They're at the helm of their own existence. You might find yourself forming relationships that matter, not because you need them, but because you choose them. And that choice makes all the difference. This changes how you live. You walk through the world differently now, with a holy stillness, a presence that reshapes every dynamic without you needing to try. You're not the man you were, the one who chased, who begged, who lived for her approval. You're a man who knows himself, who commands attraction through his freedom, his authenticity, his unshakable core. Think of someone like Ernest Hemingway, whose rugged self-possession made him unforgettable, a man women dreamed of because he lived for his own story, not theirs. You can do the same, turning every interaction into a reflection of your truth, every silence into a moment of your power. Picture this, you're back in that bar, but now she's the one approaching, her eyes locked on you, drawn to the man who doesn't need her to shine, because you already do. This is Sartre's ultimate truth. True attraction comes from within, and when you embody it, she falls for you, not because you sought her, but because you became the rare man who doesn't need her. Step into that freedom, live it, and let it redefine everything. You've walked through the shadows of bad faith, felt the weight of needing her love, and uncovered the unseen costs that left you hollow, invisible, and disconnected from your untamed core. You've learned Sartre's ultimate truth. True attraction comes from completing yourself, embodying radical freedom, unmoved presence, and authenticity that make you whole. A man who doesn't need her to shine, but whose very existence becomes a force she can't resist. You're no longer the man who chases her gaze. You're the rare man who lives in his own truth, a man whose presence alone makes her unable to look away. Start today. Take one small refusal to reclaim your freedom. The next time you're tempted to send that begging text, to soften your truth, to chase her approval, pause. Choose yourself instead. Feel your own stillness and watch how the dynamic shifts. Practice this in every interaction and feel the transformation. Her longing deepens, her gaze lingers, and your authenticity becomes magnetic. You've learned to be the man she can't forget, not by needing her, but by needing nothing but your own truth. How does it feel to stand in your own freedom, to be the man who doesn't bend? Share in the comments. What's one refusal you'll make today, and how did it change the energy? Your story could inspire another man to break free from neediness. If this resonated with you, hit the like button. It lets us know you want more content like this. Subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss our next dive into philosophy and self-mastery. Share this with a man who's been chasing too hard, needing too much. He might need this wisdom to become the rare man women fall for. The world will keep pushing you to need, to chase, to bend. But now you know the truth. You don't need her to be whole. You are the story, the mountain, the man who breathes deeply in her absence. Step into that authenticity. Live it, and build a life where her longing follows. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the man she dreams of when her spirit is cold. You're not just attracting her, you're becoming unforgettable, and the world will never feel the same again.